This summer, Instacart presents famous summer flavors coming to your front door. Or pool. Or hotel.
Your grocery delivery has arrived, sir.
That was faster than room service.
No violins in the lobby.
Oh, seriously? Anyway, sit back, relax, and get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes. Starring your favorite snacks, drinks, and more. Download Instacart for free delivery on your first 3 orders. Rated H for hungry audiences. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum $10 per order. Excludes restaurants. Additional terms and fees apply.
We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, a music podcast where we chat to a new guest each week, talk about their life and creative endeavours, and talk to them about some of the music they love. Our show works by chatting to our guests about music, but also getting them to make you a playlist of the songs they love. You can find the link to our playlist in the show notes. Welcome to episode 21. I'm your host, Simon Fink. Our guest today is Joel Quartermain from Eskimo Joe. The band have just released their new single entitled 99 Ways, which is the follow-up to last year's single, Say Something. In today's episode, we talk about the magic of hindsight in a band, a new Eskimo Joe full-length album, and writing ballads with G-Flip. Here we go. Our guest today is 1/3 of Perth band Eskimo Joe. When he's not with Cabin Stew, he can be found as a session writer, working with acts such as Meg Mac and Fergus James. Please welcome to This Song Is Yours from Eskimo Joe, Joel Quartermain. Hello, Joel.
Hey, Simon. How's it going?
Good, thank you, mate. What about yourself?
I'm good, man. Good. Monday morning. No Monday-itis, so it's looking good.
That always very helpful, always helpful. Congratulations on the new single for Eskimo Joe, 99 Ways. It's out at the moment. It is out now. This song was written as, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, either an ode to lockdown or it's a bit of a lockdown love song. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess it is a lockdown love song. It's kind of about the longing that comes with being separated from your other half, in circumstances that were topical at the time. So, my family had quarantined for 2 weeks in a hotel upon getting an exemption to get back to WA from Melbourne. And we tried 3 times. We finally got allowed, and then flew to Perth. And then myself and my partner with our 2-year-old did 2 weeks of quarantine. And also Cav from Eskimo Joe had to lock himself in a room apart from his family because right at the dawn of COVID, they were flying back from LA. And when they got back, he was experiencing some symptoms and so had to isolate himself, still in the family house. I don't know. I think COVID was so young at that point that there were no rules in place.
It was a very uncertain time, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he wrote a song in his self-imposed isolation and sent it on to me. And the first verse was what has become the first half of the chorus as it is in the song now. So I kind of heard that and went, this bit right at the front, this verse thing sounds like a sick chorus and really fertile sort of lyrically to write something around. Maybe if we consider that like the chorus, and then we wrote a whole new song around that. So we just took that one bit, and then after I got out of quarantine in Perth, Cav and I started working on this song, and we did we kind of walked around trying to figure out what we were going to write a song about with that lyric that's kind of non-specific, 99 ways to pull my body apart, but there's only one way that you can break my heart. We're like, what are we writing about? And it was very much obviously a topical thing and in the air and something he'd experienced and something pretty much, most people in the world at the moment, at some point during this 2020, was separated from, if not their partner, then their extended family or whatever it is. The option was taken away to be with them, and that's kind of what we decided to write this song about.
Yeah, definitely. Did you find, and I imagine that for a range of artists it might be a similar thing, that when writing and having obviously COVID as the most glaring inspiration, I guess is one way to put it, for 2020, was it difficult, not just this song but for other songs, to not always kind of have COVID as an inspiration? Or did you find yourself with like 10, 20 songs about lockdown or a pandemic?
I felt like at the start, when because I work with lots of different artists on writing songs, you're just so used to being in the room together, and that that process, it's almost fundamental to it, because you can feel the temperature in the room change when something good happens or when something great's about to happen, and having to move to do writing songs with people like this online in two dimensions, on other sides of the planet or other sides of the country or whatever it is, it takes away that reading, the ability to read the room, and go with a feeling once the feeling starts happening. It makes that much harder. Like, we were thinking about it, like it's almost like resistance training. It's like running in sand kind of thing, to write a song. But so at the start of all of that, when I was starting to write songs online with people, it was pretty difficult to avoid that being the topic, the current situation being the topic.
Yeah.
And especially when it's something that everyone in the world can empathize with, because when you're writing in a song, I guess you're trying to tap into empathy, really.
Yeah.
It's like what's going on for you, how the human experience is common. And even if you're writing a song that's about a personal thing, if it's a human thing, that other people are going to relate to that or have, similar situations, similar feelings. So with the COVID thing, when that first happened, it actually felt like, in Melbourne anyway, where it hit pretty hard, you're walking down the street and you'd walk past a stranger, and for the first time ever, you'd acknowledge each other and go, "Hey, how's it going?" Because it felt like everyone had something in common.
Yeah.
And for the first time ever, like the same thing, and that was pretty amazing and pretty cool. But once Melbourne got to 4 or 5 months of being in severe lockdown, people started to get pretty tired, and the empathy level probably started to drop, and it was more people looking sideways at each other. Became a bit of cabin fevery. But yeah, I think it was, to answer your question, to go back around on that, it was hard not to go straight there into writing about that. But we managed. I work with another guy called Edward White, and we've made a bit of a production writing team, and we managed to write probably 20 songs online with different artists during that period, and I'd say probably 4 or 5 of them were about that, and then the other 15 or so were just about love or whatever it is that was going on in the artist's life, really.
Yeah, of course. As you mentioned, you've worked with quite a range of artists in both the songwriting and production kind of environment. Was there any had you had much experience with working remotely before COVID, or did that kind of rush along with everyone else catching up to working remotely? Had you had previous experience with that, or was it something that you had to learn on the fly with everyone else?
no experience whatsoever. Because, you know, like I was saying before, being in the room with people to create music is just so important. And, you know, you totally took that for granted because that's how you always did it. Suddenly you're trying to do it in this scenario, and there's technical things like a slight delay. You know, if I was, say, playing a guitar and sort of workshopping a melody in a room with someone, I could sing a melody to them while playing guitar, and then they could sing that back to me and go, well, how about this or whatever? And it's a very fluid two-way bounce thing.
Yeah.
Whereas online, if I was to do the same and then I play guitar and then they'd try to sing the melody back, there's a delay, so it's impossible. So there's a whole nother layer of, okay, I have to record the guitars, send it to them via a link so that they can press play on the link on their laptop and sing over that. And you workshop like that. So we found by the end of like a 5-6 hour writing session, you were pretty tired from, you know, switching sides of the brain from creative to technical and working across 3 different platforms like, you know, Pro Tools plus Zoom plus, you know, some kind of audio streaming thing so you could stream at high quality like audio movers listen to or whatever it was. You're kind of working across 3 things. So it's full multitasking but like I said, we were thinking about it like resistance training. The more we did it, the more fluid it became and the more normal it became. And some of the songs that we got out of that period were really good, but we did find the sessions that we did with people that we'd worked with before went the best.
Yeah. Going
cold into a session, like just say you and I were writing a song today, then it's the first time you've met someone, like it's the trust thing in the songwriting thing is really important, and the trust thing in terms of people getting vulnerable, letting their guard down and sharing their secrets and whatever's happening for them. That's like really important for collabing on songwriting. Is that bit more tricky online, I think.
Definitely. I feel I imagine that it would have kind of lost parts of the chemistry, and also as you said, if you're having to change like a little something in the song and then send it through, and then they have to listen to it and then record it back and send it through, it kind of takes the magic out of being in the room and being able to kind of just work like on it instantly.
Absolutely. And that fuels the whole process. Those things happening really fast and that moment not being a crystallized thing, it's like a sequence. It becomes like a process rather than a natural occurrence. It takes the wind out of your sails a little bit, you know, like, yeah. So, but I mean, then getting back into the room with artists and people to write songs after doing it on Zoom for so long felt like running on the Olympic track after running in sand. For, you know, it's just like we were flying. Yeah. It was great. Yeah.
For yourself, obviously Eskimo Joe have been around for around 20, just over 20 years now, I think.
24, I think.
I was going to say, we spoke to Cav last year, and I think it was around 23, 24, yeah. For yourself, so there was a bit of a break in the last decade, and as we mentioned, you've gone on to producing and songwriting. What kind of led you to, I guess, this other well-known part of your career? What was the first kind of spark of maybe I want to write for other people or produce?
I guess it probably would have been something that I would have been doing the whole time if Eskimo Joe had not, become such a full-time, all-encompassing career thing. But at the same time, I wouldn't trade it for anything because, you know, working with those 2 guys and working out how to make records. We didn't collaborate with other writers or anything like that because that wasn't the done thing if you're an indie band post Nirvana. You know, like that seemed like no one was doing that. Pop artists were, but it wasn't a thing for a band like ours. And so we just had to work out how to write songs and make records as we went through trial and error and hard work and doing it every single day, and we did that. And that's how I learned to do what I do. And I learned so much off working with Cav in particular about songwriting and things like that. And I think he probably off me in a production aspect and arrangement and melody and that sort of stuff. So, I mean, it was a really good chemistry between us to learn, because the strengths and weaknesses kind of complemented each other. And then it set me up making those records with unbelievable producers. We had proper budgets to spend 6 weeks in a recording studio with someone who'd been flown out from America and had made records that we loved, being in the room and soaking that up and making those records is you can't pay for that. You can go to school, production school or whatever, but that's a different thing, than actually doing it. I've spent a lot of time in studios with amazing people through Eskimo Joe. So you just learn by osmosis, really. Yeah. And it's great.
Is there with, I guess, all the knowledge that you have now and the skills that you've built up, do you kind of listen back to some of those Eskimo Joe songs and I guess have like almost like a different lens or filter across your eyes when listening back, like, oh, I could have produced that better, or the songwriting we could have tweaked here, or?
I think so. There's certain moments in the records in that 6-album career where I think we really got most of it as right as we could at the time. And it was like, there's particularly the build up to this third album. Like the second album was like this coming of age sort of record where we'd learned so much between the first and the second, and there was a quantum leap in the songwriting sensibilities, in production, in all those things, and we're always so confident. Like that comes with being young as well. Yeah. There's way less doubt in the room when you're 27 because you think you know everything. And then you look back now and you're like, I didn't know that much at all, really, but it somehow worked. That confidence got us through. But yeah, there's certain moments where we got it right, but I think the moments where we got it wrong, where I look back on a record like the one after Black Fingernails that kind of sounds more like a mixtape of 3 people who all wanted to do different things and couldn't get on the same page particularly. Those things are more about, not so much about knowledge, but more about the dynamic between the 3 people being wrong at that particular point. And the albums where we got it right, where we were all pulling in the same direction and there's less ego involved, say, and those kind of things that are the enemy of creativity, Yeah,
definitely.
So I think, interestingly, I was talking about this to a friend the other day, the record after Black Fingernails. I think Black Fingernails Red Wine had been such a successful record that when we're writing the next one or trying to make the next one, there was probably a bit more stubbornness, people standing their ground, a bit more ego in the room, which got in the way of the creative process. And that's kind of that's a big thing, that's a big thing to note and to look back on and go, gee, if we just sat down and talked and got and bashed those things out rather than being stubborn and, bringing it into the process, we would have made a better record. So you learn a lot from looking back with that perspective, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Do you find, and again, obviously with age, as we discussed, does come like hindsight is an incredible thing, but do you find now when you guys are in the studio that they're kind of, that's all now having families and everything else, that there's almost no ego, that it is kind of just a much more creative and free-flowing kind of environment?
Yeah, it's really great now. Not doing the band full-time, when we get together, we've got news to share with each other. That perspective of not just being, that band like Eskimo Joe that worked so hard and toured so hard was like being in quarantine with two other guys for 17 years, and with that comes all of the cabin fever and all those sort of things. Now when we get in the room, like we have such respect for each other and love for each other as brothers, really. It's a family thing.
Yeah.
That when we come at the creative process like that, the exchange is really fluid and really easy, and there's less bullshit in the, it's just like, it's about the song rather than about other noise, going on because of the relationship. So it was really good, man.
That's cool.
Really
With Say Something, the second half of last year, and 99 Ways early this year, can we expect possibly an EP or a full length later on in the year, or is that something that we keep under wraps for now?
Look, I can honestly answer that question in that at the moment we're on a hit rate of one song per year. So 12 years down the track, we'll have a new album at the rate we're going. But, that might change if the world opens up a bit and we can more freely spend time in the studio together, But that's where we're at the moment. And we live in a singles world at the moment. We could happily do a song every 6 months or whatever and put it out and give our fan base something new to listen to and something for us to create to satisfy that, and that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, definitely.
But the idea of an album seems like Everest at the moment. It's like, that's huge.
I feel like the album release kind of has changed within the last 12 to 15 months for obvious reasons. Most musicians do kind of, I think decades gone by, albums used to be the big money maker. Not that it's about money, but you obviously want to be able to keep making music, whereas touring for years became the bread and butter of it. And with COVID kind of restricting that, I guess for you guys, I know that there was touring planned and that there has been a tour announced, which we'll get to in a sec, but do you think that the whole release format of album tour has changed for good? Do you think that we'll go back to that, or do you think it's kind of a bit more of a open landscape now?
That's a really good question. Like, I'm not sure. I think that a lot of good new music will come out of this, because with that kind of hardship, I think, and pivoting or whatever you want to call it in life, that good art comes out of that, and trying circumstances and having time to do those kind of things. I mean, for Eskimo Joe, we wouldn't have released these songs if it wasn't for COVID, because we would have been busy playing shows and just doing that. And what do you do as a band if you can't play gigs? It's like, we can't play gigs anymore for the first time. Let's put out a song for the first time in 7 years.
Yeah.
But as far as that album tour cycle, I really hope it returns, because I think it's a pretty natural cycle for a band. You spend 6 months writing and recording a record from the writing stage, and then you go and spend a year and a half touring it. The songs get better, they grow, they become new things as you tour, and you get to see. The thing is that when you spent all this time creating an album, writing the songs, recording it, all that, and then you get to see, like in real time, a reaction from an audience to this thing you've made that, you know, really until anyone else hears a song, does it exist? You know, like it exists to its creators, but it's not out in the world. And once you put it out in the world, then you don't kind of own it as such anymore. It's everybody's who is interested. And then to see that reaction in real time is so gratifying, and it's such a reward. And it becomes real. So if we're stuck in a world where we can just make music and put it out, that's okay. But it's nowhere near as good as then going out and seeing people. It affects people in real time. You know, that's huge.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think that informs the music you write after that. You know, because you see what people are really like responding to, or moved by, or affected by, or whatever, however you want to look at it.
Definitely,
and that has to play into what you write after that.
Yeah,
you know,
I feel like it's almost so like it's a road test. You can see what works, what doesn't work, what hits. And kind of go from there. If you're wanting to, help, that can help shape the music that you create after.
Totally. Otherwise, you're just creating in a vacuum, really.
Yeah, 100%.
And you know, there's positives to that, but it's good to have it balanced by going out and getting in front of people. You know? Definitely. Yeah. You guys, this week announced the Black Fingernails Red Wine in the City tour for next year, where you'll be playing the two of the biggest Eskimo Joe albums. I guess, firstly, how excited are you to get out back playing shows? But actually, no, we'll stick with that question first. We'll come back to the other one. Oh, man, completely excited. Like, I feel like the audience, you know, is going to be so up for it, and so ready to go and see loud live music where you feel the kick drum hit you here, and the physical aspect of it, and the celebratory aspect, and the community aspect, and all those things. It's going to be amazing. I mean, it's almost a shame that we have to wait 13 months until the first show, but. You know, when I got over to WA for that period during the hard lockdown in Melbourne, we did get to play. We got to play a 6,000 person festival, us and John Butler, when down south in like 2.5 hours south of Perth, and it was this big gig, and everyone went absolutely bananas at this gig, because it was like this release of, you know, pent up tension or whatever it is, and relief, and you know, everyone appreciated it fully. It wasn't something people were taking for granted anymore. So, you know, for all those reasons, we can't wait for it. And then going back and revisiting those records and learning how to play them again, and the thing about that is you're going through what you were doing musically then, songwriting wise then, and you realize some things that you're kind of like, wow, I'd never do that now. Or, you know, that's an interesting take on it. It seems so innocent, but it's good. You know, maybe you overthink things now, or the more you learn.
Is there, a track or like a part of a song from either of those records? I guess is there one that you listen to now and you're like, oh, that's an interesting kind of take, or like, sorry, is there one that you listen to now that at the time was a bit of a favorite, and now you kind of question your motives or thoughts of choices at the time? And the reverse, is there something that at the time you're like, not my favorite, and now has kind of got a special spot for you?
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Your wedding will be one of the happiest days of your life, and Blue Nile can help you celebrate it with a gift that'll last a lifetime. Whether you're looking for wedding bands, a gift for your partner, or an unforgettable thank you to your bridesmaids, Blue Nile offers a wide assortment of jewelry of the highest quality at the best price. Plus, expert guidance to ensure you find the perfect piece. Experience the convenience of shopping Blue Nile, the original online jeweler since 1999 at BlueNile.com. BlueNile.com.
That's a good question too, man. I have to think about that. I mean, there are songs that weren't, like the last track on Black Fingernails Red Wine is called How Does It Feel? And that wasn't a prominent song on the record, as in it wasn't a single or anything like that. But when we play that live now, and we probably have been for the year leading up to COVID, we realised that song like had a real weight and a real like live power to it that we probably hadn't appreciated before. And when we played it, like, is one of those things where you can't help it when the band's playing it. It gets up to a certain section and you look around and everyone on stage is just going like 110% and like fully in the song.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen with every song that you perform, but for some reason this song had that thing, and that's probably something that we didn't maybe fully realise at that point in time. So that's a nice kind of revelation, I guess. I think the song that from that whole period that seems to never wane or die in its potency or whatever is a song called From the Sea, which was the first single off A Song Is a City. And I remember when we were making the film clip for that, you know, it's a whole day of hearing the song like 700 times and snippets of the song. And I clearly remember like having this immense doubt about this song. I was like, is this song even good, let alone very good or really good or whatever? You know, like, is this just like rubbish kind of thing? And it was a real moment. And then now we're that was 2004, so that's 17 years ago. So now to this day, it's like, I think it's the quintessential Eskimo Joe song where all of our influences gelled in the most potent way possible, probably those being the Pixies, the Beatles, and then a bit of the Police in there for hit factor.
Yeah.
You know, Police greatest hits. It's pretty good. So that main riff, you know, the piano kind of guitar riff is like very much like taken from a Police, Every Breath You Take kind of thing. And then the dynamic thing is very Pixies. And then the modulations and the chords and all that, there's kind of a bit of Beatles going on there. So it's like, for some reason, that song is just never like waned in its power or the way the crowd reacts to it or the way we love playing it, you know.
It's funny, just before when we were talking about like creating music and without releasing it, you're uncertain of how it sounds. It is somewhat in a vacuum without that outside influence. And then it's funny that you say that, just because From the Sea ended up, I think, yeah, it is the quintessential Eskimo Joe song. I think that's the song that everyone, when you say or you think of Eskimo Joe, everyone kind of goes to that chorus of, well, I'm not going to sing it, but I'm not going to do Cav a disservice, but yeah, it goes to that chorus. Yeah.
Yeah, I just love it. It's great. It's good to have one song like that you wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, 100%. Joel, would you be happy to talk about one or two songs that you had worked on from the playlist?
Man, yeah, I'm all yours, dude.
The first one I wanted to talk about was by Mercy Mercy fucked myself up.
Yeah, man. Well, that was the first time that we'd, myself and Edwin had worked with Mercedes, and she is this kind of really intriguing, slightly enigmatic character that is a lovely person, but quite shy, especially on first meeting. And we got in the room with her, and she had a ukulele. And it usually starts with, maybe chatting for 40 minutes or whatever about just getting to know each other and trying to get that, that trust and that guard to drop, I guess, with any artist. And then we kind of said, do you have any ideas floating around? And she plays uke, so she sung basically the whole of the first verse. And then we were like, well, that's sick. What is the song about? What are you to? And she kind of explained that it's about, having massive social anxiety and using alcohol to medicate yourself in those scenarios, but then that becoming a really destructive thing. And it's like she's at the point where she is basically sliding down the walls of a toilet cubicle and can't leave because she's so disabled by this anxiety in a social situation. And that's how she's choosing to deal with it, which is by drinking excessively. And we're like, that's amazing. The first verse and the pre-chorus were kind of there. So then it was our job to, write the rest of the song. And, we often start writing a song from scratch with writing the chorus, because it's like, it encapsulates everything that the song's about. It gives you something to shoot for with the narrative of the verses, all those things, all roads lead to that point kind of thing, to make a potent, say, pop song or indie pop song or whatever it is. But with this, we had that verse and it was quite detailed. So it was about coming at it the opposite way, where we had to boil something down from that, that verse or that synopsis, if you like, into a potent chorus. And there was a line in the pre where Mercy sung texting numbers on purpose. And I really like the phrasing and that on purpose kind of vibe. So I suggested for the chorus that we riff off that and have fucked myself up on purpose. And I think that hit on a point, and we kind of expanded with the chorus lyrically from there, because too much is never enough. What is it you want from me? This shit don't come so easily. So it was very like, it's pretty direct. It's also kind of conversational. It's like, it's honest, and we were able to make the melodies so it ended up being pretty damn catchy as well. So we were pretty stoked. But in the process, we had that fuck myself up on purpose at the end of the chorus, and the bridge, which is I'm scared to be alone. That's why I don't go home. I think that opened the chorus at some point, and at some point, I remember making the chorus like, no, that fuck myself up on purpose. That's the hook. I think we should put that, and that's when we were into tracking the vocal. So sometimes you don't realize these things when you're writing until the artist gets on the mic and sings all the parts, and you're like, that's where the song's at.
Another song that you have worked on, Joel, is Wooden Heart by Dustin Tebbett. How did that song kind of come about? And I guess where was the influence from that song? Or was it brought to you by Dustin, or was it something that you took to him?
That song was something that he'd had kicking around for quite a while. He had pretty much the chorus there, but he couldn't break through. And this is from memory because this was quite a few years ago, but he sort of contacted me after listening to the Meg Mac EP quite a bit, and he liked that. So he was like, I'm going to come over to Perth. I'd love to do a couple of songs. And that one, he had a pretty solid idea with the chorus, but then it was about writing the rest of the song around that. And that was kind of early on in my, going out there as a collaborative songwriter. I was more kind of on the side of production and would occasionally write, but it was always at that point, it was kind of often rewriting. Like I'd work with an artist and they'd show me a song and I'd go, that verse is amazing. If the chorus could come up and watch the whole song, would be amazing. So we'd sit down and like rewrite a different chorus or whatever it was. So I was coming at it like that. Whereas now it's kind of from scratch, but with that particular song, he had that chorus, and that was a matter of kind of coming up with progressions for the verse, building a vibe for the song. And then he's such a great lyricist and a picky lyricist as well, and knows what he wants to say. I would say that he, would have written 90% of those lyrics, at breakfast before we get into the room to continue working on the song.
Yeah.
And he really likes to think it through, and it's a long process for Dustin. It's not like, some songs, collabing lyrics can be written in a whole song in an hour or something like that, which is quick when you think about, you're also talking about what are we saying, what's happening in the song, what's the scenario, where do we go with the second verse kind of thing. He did that separate from me, and then brought it in, and then I'd tweak certain lines, but he was certainly like driving that side of things. And then after that, it was a matter of me being really particular about melody. I'm a bit of a stickler for melody, and it was sort of when we got into doing vocal takes, it was a lot of talk back. He'd sing, I kind of go, okay, this note should go here, let's do it again. And he's like such a champion and so hardworking that I pushed him super hard, and we got to the place, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it was really good. And he'd never done his vocals with someone else at that point. I think he'd just done them by himself. So that was a new thing for him, but really enjoyable. He's such a talented dude, and I actually can't take heaps of credit for that song lyrically at all. But as far as where the melodies ended up and the shapes of those and how the song's put together in the verse and all those kind of things, that was kind of how that worked. I mean, every collaboration is slightly different with every artist because they bring something different to the table, and you've got to sort of mold yourself around that. So yeah, that's one of the interesting things of doing this. It's a different day every day, and when you walk into the room, you don't know what the day's going to be. I think doing production, because you're running the session, you're kind of captaining how the song's being put together or whatever. There's a lot less doubt walking in to produce a song when the song already exists and it's written. But with writing a song, especially from scratch with artists, you walk in nervous every day. and I love that, because if you write a crap song, you feel crap until you write a good one. So it's like, you take your work home with you a bit. You're like, oh, you didn't write a great song, I'm rubbish. You put that kind of pressure on yourself, whether that's healthy or not, I don't know. But I guess it's setting a standard or of sorts. But I love the feeling of being nervous walking into a session. You just don't know what's going to happen, and it makes, when you do write a good song and you leave that day, it feels like such a triumph. You know, it's like you feel like celebrating almost. You know, you're that stoked.
Yeah,
it's like we did that out of nothing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and people will hear it hopefully and like it, and that's, you know, an incredible feeling.
Do you have a preference of when people have like a song that's maybe finished 75%? Compared to when you can kind of walk in and almost start from scratch with them? Is there like, do you feel like you're overstepping a line somewhat if they've already finished like a good 80% of the song and you're just kind of tweaking? If that question makes sense.
No. Yeah, it totally does. I'm just thinking that if you're asking what I prefer, nowadays I probably prefer coming in with no song and starting from a 2-hour conversation that comes to a fine point about what we're going to write the song about, to as fine a point as what it's going to be called before we start writing it.
Yeah.
You know, so then it's really about speaking to the artist about, you know, you somehow get onto what's going on in your life and hope that they open right up, and you start talking, and then you start relating about things that you can relate to them, and scenarios, and you get down to particular scenarios, and in the whole time you're taking notes in your head about, okay, what's this song about, and then furthermore boiling it down to almost what it's going to be called. So you're noting keywords as the conversation's happening, and key phrases that the artist is saying or that you're saying, and you're just banking that stuff the whole time during this conversation, where it is a really real conversation about what's going on for that person in their life and for you and yours, and those kind of things.
Yeah.
So when you get to that end of that hour and a half, then you go, well, hopefully part of your job as a collaborative songwriter is going, okay, so really what we're talking about is this, and perhaps this could be what the song's called. And, you know, that might be a moment where the artist goes, yeah, that's it. Or they'll go, I think we're talking about this and it should be called this. And you're like, yes, you know, like getting it to that finer point before you actually start writing is huge in writing a good song. Like when I first started collaborating with artists on a daily basis, it's easy to get into a habit of picking up a guitar or going to a piano, starting to play chords and singing a melody with gobbledygook lyrics, you know, just like blah, 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 or whatever, coming up with a sick melody and sick chord progressions, high-fiving, going to lunch, and then coming back and going, what are we writing a song about? Like, you think you've won, but you haven't, you know, like you haven't got the song. And having that there before you start writing, having that fine point, just makes it so much more potent. And so that's what we kind of do and how we come at it. And you know, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And some days lightning strikes and some days it doesn't. And yeah, that's the exciting part. Like I said, you just never know.
Yeah, definitely. It's I think what makes songwriting, just extremely interesting is that it's literally pulled from nothing, and then it can, as you said, if lightning strikes, it can. I guess what's the best way to put it? It can really just become part of people's lives, and then if it doesn't, well, sometimes we don't hear it if it doesn't. But it's just a wild and magical kind of thing.
Totally, man. There's this song that I wrote with G-Flip called "Bring Me Home," and that was really great. Like she's such a great writer, and so I just jumped on a piano, started playing some chords. We actually came at it the opposite way to what I was just talking about, as in played some chords. She kind of pressed record on an iPhone, started to sing some melodies without really having lyrics for 45 minutes straight. And as that 45 minutes went on, I was kind of structuring the chords and the progression and giving it an arc, I guess, like a verse, pre-chorus kind of thing, and sort of working that out. We weren't even talking to each other really. We were just like literally making music and sing.
Yeah.
And that was it for 45 minutes. And then by the end of that 45 minutes, we pretty much had the whole song, as far as the shape, the structure, the emotion, the melodies. It was pretty much all there. And then we just listened to it and picked out, the bits, 25 minutes, that happens, that's our chorus. At 35 minutes, this happened, that's the bridge, I think the verse took a bit more work, but then we were getting into writing lyrics, and we went back to just talking about scenarios, and she was sharing, about a particularly tough time when she was touring for, 3, 4, 5 months straight in America in a band that she was in at the time. She was playing drums, and she just got, it just got away from her emotionally, and she got into a pretty, I guess, dark place, and that led to a bit of, self-destruction or self-destructive sort of things going on with her. Yeah. And the song was about just speaking to someone on the other side of the world who is back home, just going, I need you to bring me back because I'm lost at sea out here, kind of thing. And it's causing anxiety for the first time in my life. It's causing me to hurt, like not treat myself well at all, and get into scenarios that I would never think that I'd get into. And, we had that conversation, and then we came up with the title. We were like, it probably needs to be called Bring Me Home. And then from there, the lyrics came quickly, and then we'd written it on the piano like that. So we always thought, okay, now let's produce it like a banger. And so we took it into the studio, started putting beats down, synthesized all this sort of stuff, bass parts, and building this big track. And Georgia was putting vocals down on that, and it was still a good song, but it just didn't have that theme, that feeling that we were getting when it was just her and I in the room, me on the piano and her singing. And at the last minute of the day, I kind of said, let's do a version like we were doing in there. So literally put 2 mics up on the piano. She stood next to me, sung into the microphone, and we did one take of the song. And that's the release version. That's it. So it's almost like we spent a day and a half trying to make the song, and then we just did it in 3.5 minutes. It was great.
I love stories like that where it's kind of the original kind of magic is what made it. But I don't enjoy the fact that you guys had gone through those many hours of making it a banger for it not to have worked out like that.
Yeah, it's almost like the lyric, we need to bring the song home, and that was just us playing it like that. And she loved it. I don't think she'd done something like that before. That always, the G-Flip songs to that point had been pretty big banger productions.
Yeah.
So it's really vulnerable, so it suited the song. And it's done really well, and as in it, it's been on synced on quite a few American TV shows and stuff like that. So it's nice when a song goes out into the world and you kind of look on the YouTube clip of it and people are commenting, I saw this song on this show called All American or whatever it is, and there's heaps of people going, wow, this song's really powerful, and it's connecting with people like through those avenues is pretty magic.
Yeah, definitely. I think, as you said earlier, it's just about empathy and the human condition is what we all go through. So the fact that it connects, you know that you guys are doing something right.
Yeah, you can get lost in technicality and you know, how good is this chord progression or whatever it is, but at the end of the day, it doesn't mean nearly as much as that one thing that you just said then, basically. Yeah. That's what we're trying to do, really.
Well, you're doing a very good job of it, Joel. We do appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
All good. Look, again, I am very conscious of the time. Joel, thank you very much for being on the podcast. It is very much appreciated.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks for having me, bro. It's awesome. Thank you.
And that's our show. Thank you again to Joel Quartermain and Eskimo Joe. Their new single, 99 Ways, is out now. You can find a link to their Spotify in the show notes where you can listen to the new song. We also want to give a quick shout out to Jade at Beehive PR for helping out with today's interview. You can also find a link to our Spotify playlist in the show notes where you'll be able to listen to all of the songs that Joel's worked on. If you like this show, please subscribe wherever you get your pods and stay up to date when new episodes are released. We release new shows each Thursday morning with guest playlists streaming on Spotify at the same time. You can follow the playlist profile on Spotify, and you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Until next week, cheers.
This podcast is brought to you by eHarmony, the dating app to find someone you can be yourself with. Why doesn't eHarmony allow copy and paste in first messages? Because you are unique, and your conversations should reflect that. eHarmony wants you to find someone who will get you. How are you going to know who gets you? If people send you the same generic conversation starters they message everyone else. Conversations that actually help you get to know each other. Imagine that. Get who gets you on eHarmony. Sign up today.